The Bay Harbor butcher case is now a Miami Metro case.
Hello, my viewer. There may or may not be spoilers ahead, so watch out and take care. The air in Miami Metro, a sterile sarcophagus of fluorescent hum and ersatz camaraderie, was always a deceptively calm prelude to the storm of Dexter's internal world. Yet the arrival of Special Agent Frank Lundy, an unassuming figure cloaked in the quiet authority of an apex predator, was not merely a new variable, but a seismic shift, an intellectual tremor that threatened to cleave the carefully constructed edifice of Dexter Morgan's existence, a structure meticulously assembled from the fragments of a shattered childhood and cemented by the rigid, yet strangely comforting dogma of the code. Lundy was not just a detective, he was an oracle of the uncanny, a cartographer of the deviant mind, his gaze a disquieting probe that seemed to bypass the superficial masks of politeness and penetrate directly to the churning abyss beneath, to the primordial urge that Dexter so diligently, so desperately, sought to contain within the meticulously maintained confines of his dark passenger. Dexter was a phantom limb of justice, a surgeon of consequence. Lundy was the ghost whisperer. Their initial meeting, in the mundane bustle of the precinct, felt less like an introduction and more like a premonition, a subtle but undeniable vibrational discord in the carefully orchestrated symphony of Dexter's double life, as if two opposing magnetic poles, destined for an inevitable and destructive alignment, had just brushed against each other in the void. Lundy's presence immediately cast a long, unsettling shadow across the familiar landscape of Dexter's professional performance, transforming the everyday into a psychological battleground, each casual glance a potential interrogation, every shared word a veiled challenge to the very essence of his hidden monstrousness, igniting within Dexter a rare, unfamiliar flicker of genuine fear that transcended the usual thrill of the hunt, a fear rooted in the terrifying possibility of being truly, irrevocably seen. He was unraveling. Lundy was the threat. The genius of Lundy lay not in bluster or brute force, but in the subtle art of intellectual infiltration, a methodical dismantling of psychological defenses through the sheer, unwavering force of his analytical prowess, making him less a pursuer and more a conceptual predator, hunting not for physical evidence alone, but for the elusive patterns of the deviant soul, the idiosyncratic tics and tells that betray the meticulously crafted facade of normalcy. He moved with a quiet, almost spectral efficiency, his observations keen, his deductions razor-sharp, each pronouncement a surgical incision into the very fabric of the Bay Harbor butcher's elusive persona, a persona that, unbeknownst of him, was inextricably intertwined with the man sitting mere feet away, observing him with a terrifying mixture of professional interest and primal dread. Lundy was a mirror. Dexter was exposed. For Dexter, who had always operated in the shadowy periphery, a master of blending into the mundane while executing his horrific rituals in the stark isolation of the kill room, Lundy represented an entirely new order of threat, one that could not be outsmarted by clever misdirection or overwhelmed by superior physical force, but only by an even more profound act of psychological deception, a constant, exhausting performance of innocent normalcy that strained the very limits of his emotional reserves. Lundy's unwavering focus on the psychological profile of the butcher, his almost poetic descriptions of the killer's meticulousness, his need for control, his potential for compartmentalization, felt like a series of increasingly specific arrows shot directly into the heart of Dexter's most guarded secrets, each word a chilling echo of his own internal monologue, forcing him into a terrifying dance on the precipice of discovery. He was being dissected. Lundy held the scalpel. The train car scene, a claustrophobic crucible of mounting tension, was not merely a physical setting, but a symbolic arena where the psychological duel between hunter and hunted reached a peak, a stage upon which Lundy meticulously painted a portrait of the Bay Harbour butcher with brushstrokes of chilling accuracy, all while Dexter, the living embodiment of that portrait, sat silently, his internal world a maelstrom of barely contained panic and desperate calculation. Lundy's discourse on the butcher's obsessive-compulsive nature, his almost ritualistic precision, his profound need for control over the chaotic impulses that drove him, resonated with a horrifying familiarity within Dexter, each phrase a direct accusation, each observation a direct reflection of his own meticulously organized pathology, transforming the very act of listening into an act of terrifying self-incrimination, rendering him a prisoner of his own carefully constructed narrative. Lundy was speaking his truth. Dexter was suffocating. This was not a simple interrogation, but a profound act of psychological mirroring, where Lundy, through his uncanny ability to articulate the inner workings of a serial killer's mind, inadvertently forced Dexter to confront the grotesque beauty and terrifying logic of his own dark passenger, pushing him to the brink of a self-recognition he had always rigorously avoided. The casual, almost professorial tone with which Lundy dissected the butcher's psyche, unaware that he was vivisecting Dexter's very soul, only amplified the exquisite agony of the moment, creating a perverse intimacy between the two men, a bond forged in the crucible of unspoken terror and mutual, albeit imbalanced, understanding. Dexter was seeing himself. Lundy was the unwitting guide. Lundy's genius lay in his ability to penetrate the facade of human behavior, to discern the faint, almost imperceptible tells that betray the carefully constructed masks we all wear. But for Dexter, whose entire life was a meticulously crafted series of such masks, Lundy's investigative methods were not merely a professional challenge, but an existential threat, a constant, gnawing reminder that the fragile illusion of his normalcy could shatter at any moment. He was playing a dangerous game. Lundy was the grandmaster. The concept of a ritual of reversal is critical when analysing Dexter's interactions with Lundy. For every act of deception, every feigned emotion, every meticulously crafted lie served not merely to mislead the agent, but to reinforce Dexter's internal narrative of control, to assert his dominance over the terrifying possibility of exposure, transforming the psychological pressure into a perverse affirmation of his own carefully engineered superiority. His lies were not mere evasions, they were acts of self-preservation, meticulously designed to maintain the delicate balance of his double life, to ensure that the fragile barrier between the public persona of the forensics analyst and the private reality of the serial killer remained impenetrable, a constant, exhausting testament to the profound isolation that defined his existence. He was constructing a fortress. Lundy was a battering ram. The tension between them was palpable, a silent hum of unspoken suspicion and desperate denial, a delicate dance of cat and mouse, played out in the sterile confines of the police station, each move a calculated risk, each word a potential landmine, forcing Dexter to inhabit his civilian persona with an intensity and precision that bordered on the grotesque. He was an actor in his own life, perpetually performing the role of the normal, well-adjusted human being. His every gesture, every facial expression, every inflection of his voice, a carefully modulated element of a performance designed to deflect suspicion, to project an aura of harmlessness that was fundamentally at odds with the terrifying reality of his inner world. He was a puppet. Lundy was pulling the strings. Lundy's dispassionate, almost academic approach to profiling the butcher was a particularly insidious form of torment for Dexter, for it stripped away the emotional charge from his horrific acts, reducing them to a series of psychological traits and behavioral patterns, an intellectual dissection that felt far more invasive than any physical scrutiny. It forced Dexter to view his own monstrosity through a cold, analytical lens, to confront the inherent predictability of his own pathology, shattering the illusion of his unique, almost artistic approach to killing, revealing it instead as a mere manifestation of a well-understood psychological archetype. His uniqueness was a lie. Lundy exposed it. The very air around Lundy seemed charged with an unsettling clairvoyance, an almost mystical ability to perceive the unspoken, the hidden truths that others so easily overlooked, making him not just an antagonist, but a spiritual counterpoint to Dexter, a force of uncomfortable revelation that challenged the very foundation of Dexter's carefully constructed reality. His presence was a constant, gnawing reminder that the world contained forces capable of seeing beyond the veil of his carefully cultivated normalcy. Forces that could unravel the intricate tapestry of his lies with a disquieting ease, leaving him exposed and vulnerable, stripped bare of his protective artifices. Make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you can watch more videos like this. Thanks for watching.